Hello everybody and welcome back. My name is Kari and today I'm doing a library haul. By the time this video goes up, there is a good likelihood that about half of these will have been returned to the library because I pre-filmed a whole bunch of videos at the beginning of January, and between them and my February TBR, January wrap-up haul, that kind of stuff, this video probably will not be out until the end of February. If you follow me on Twitter, you know I somehow ended up checking out 13 books from the library. It turns out it's actually 14 because I forgot one, which is what we're going to start with. The first one is Elizabeth and the Spanish Armada. This is a graphic novel about the Spanish Armada, which tried to invade England in 1588. I've already read this one because, I mean, it's 50 pages, if that, and it's a graphic novel, so it's much simpler, but I think it's a good overview of her reign up until then. But by overview, I mean, like, pterodactyl view. So it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but it's a fun graphic novel. Next, we have Walk on Earth, a Stranger by Ray Carson, which I realize is going to be glaring horribly, but this is a YA historical fantasy which takes place along the road to California. There are many different roads that you could have taken at the time. I won't say the Oregon Trail because she's not going to Oregon, but the Westward Trail. I'm about halfway through this book as of the date of filming, which is the last week in January. I'm enjoying it, but it's not my favorite. But I will let you know when I finish it, which will probably be in January, so watch out for that. The remainder of my fantasy books are the remainder of the Raven Boys trilogy, which are the Dream Thieves, the Blue Lily Blue, and the Raven King, all by Maggie Stiefvater. These are the completion of a quartet that starts with the Raven Boys that follows 4 boys from this prep school and a girl, I think named Blue. And the 5 of them are trying to find a dead Welsh king. Specifically, they're trying to find Owen Glendower, who fought against the English. Had I known it was Owen Glendower, I probably would have picked the series up faster, because there's a really good Horrible History songs about Owen Glendower, and it's great. That said, I am enjoying this series, or more specifically, I've enjoyed the first one thus far, and I am about to start the second one. But I liked the first one enough, and I decided I wanted to just pick up the rest of them so that I could get through them very quickly and sort of binge the series. The rest of them are my, I guess, current love, which is nonfiction. Back in late December, early January, I went to the library and just roamed, and that's how I found Sex and the Sea and Rise of the Necrofauna, which I adored. And I never would have picked them up if I hadn't just been roaming the library. Because of that, and because I've just really apparently been craving desperately some nonfiction, I went back and got the rest of the books from the library and then added a whole bunch to my Goodreads TBR. But the first one is Brave New Arctic by Mark C. Serres. This one, ooh, well that's convenient. Oh, this is one of the ones due on the 5th. This one is... The tagline says, an insider account of how researchers unraveled the mystery of the thawing Arctic. And it's basically in the 1990s, a bunch of scientists went up and tried to figure out what was going on and what the patterns were and how things were going to change. And it sounded really fascinating to me, so I got it. Then we have Nature's Mutiny by Philip Blom. This is how the Little Ice Age of the long 17th century transformed the West and shaped the present. I have already read this one, so watch out for this in my January wrap-up. But I think it is a good overview of the Little Ice Age, which took place from approximately 1550 to about 1700, give or take. But I would have liked a little bit more about the weather patterns themselves. Then we have The Grapes of Math, How Life Reflects Numbers and Numbers Reflect Life by Alex Bellos. I really and honestly just had to get this one because of the title. It's about math, which, while I'm good at it, it's never been my favorite subject. And I have read The Grapes of Wrath, and there's a song in VeggieTales where they change him from the Grapes of Wrath to the Grapes of Math, and because of that, this book just it had to be read. And then next we have Gentlemen Scientists and Revolutionaries, the Founding Fathers in the Age of Enlightenment by Tom Shachtman. This, as most nonfictions are, is about what it says. It says, science and experimentation were at the heart of the Founding Fathers' philosophies and actions. They relentlessly tinkered, invented, farmed by means of scientific principles, and stargazed. They were fascinated by math, used scientific analogies and scientific thinking in their political writing, regularly fell in love with technologies, and conceived of the United States of America as a grand experiment in the scientific meaning of the world. And it talks about all of the different scientific things that they do. The invention of the dumbwaiter, and the swivel chair by Jefferson, and the smallpox inoculation by Adams, stuff like that, which combines science and history, which is just perfect. Then we have The Clockwork Universe by Edward Dolnick. This is Isaac Newton and the birth of the modern world, apparently. So this one revolves around Isaac Newton, obviously, but it is the story of a band of men who lived in a world of dirt and disease, but pictured a universe that ran like a perfect machine. So this one starts at the end of the 17th century, where you have the Great Fire of London, a lot of plague, just a whole bunch of messy nonsense and death. And men, specifically Isaac Newton at the time, took that world and tried to figure out the mathematics behind it. Then we have Empire of the Stars by Arthur Miller. This is a book about black holes, before we got a picture of a black hole, because obviously that just happened. If we're being honest, and if you can't tell, I found the astronomy section of my library. Like I said, I just browsed because that's really fun to do. This just sounded fun. Then we have the book nobody read, Chasing the Revolutions of Nicolaus Copernicus by Owen Gingerich. This is about a book, I'm not sure if it's the only book, but a book that Copernicus wrote related to the Earth revolving around the sun, I believe, and how nobody read it, but then all of a sudden when people read it in the 20th and 21st centuries, they go, well, why didn't we read it? Because it makes sense. But at the time, there's that whole Catholic Church dominating everything, and if you didn't agree with the Catholic Church, you were kind of killed. I'm excited to read it. And then I did go back to my old favorite, Elizabeth I, and got The Queen's Bed by Anna Whitelock. This is an intimate history of Elizabeth's court, so it's not necessarily specifically who she was or was not sleeping with, because that is unknown, and I believe, based on what I've read and what I know, that she didn't have the privacy or the time to sleep with anybody. So maybe she was emotionally attached to some people, but not sleeping with them. But that's beside the point. This one is just her private life. So it does talk about her alleged bedfellows and anything that goes along with that, but I'm expecting it also to discuss some of her more serious emotional connections to people like Dudley or Cecil. Lastly, we have Wars of the Irish Kings by David Willis McCullough. This one just sounded interesting because it is woo, look at that, I have another receipt. This one starts with Legends of Ancient Wars and Warriors. I want to say it starts, well, it definitely starts before the 10th century because it mentions Viking raids. So I'm guessing, and if I remember correctly, it starts somewhere around 300 or 400 AD and goes up until about the 17th century, because by then Britain's invaded. Anyway, this also sounds really good. Like I said, I went a little bit crazy on 3 different trips and got all of these books, but I am excited about them, and I'm hoping to have them all done or relatively close to done by the time their due dates come around, which, fingers crossed, will actually work out for me. Anyway, if you are interested in any of these books or want to chat about them or whatever, let me know down in the comments below, and in the meantime, I'll see you in my next video. Bye!